Joe, an outright dominating performance by the Ohio State Buckeyes beating the Oregon Ducks in game 2 of this matchup. We thought in the beginning of the season that this one was going to happen in the Big Ten title game. It comes in the Rose Bowl. And then from the starting kickoff throughout the game, Ohio State from pretty much the entire game dominated. How did you see this one? And recapping this game as Ohio State is going to beat Oregon. Oregon, excuse me.
It played out exactly with the tone that we talked about after the Tennessee game, and I've been pushing this over the past 2 weeks. Ohio State showed me that after the Michigan loss, that was their rallying point. That was what they were going to use as the galvanizing moment to go on this march towards winning a national championship. I said very confidently that this team, this Ohio State team, would win a title because they have the talent. They just weren't locked in. And the way that they fired off the ball in these past 2 games really reinforces that take for me. I feel even more confident than I originally did by how dominant that they looked. I don't think this takes away from Oregon and their season. It was a special year. It just so happens that they got screwed with this awful scheduling that they have to see Ohio State coming off of a bye when they have all of this momentum and energy. But before we really dig into the details, though, I feel so strong that what we have discussed through these weeks, that Ohio State feels like a national champion if they're going to continue to play this way.
Joe, this past week, you and I discussed, well, pretty much the last 10 days when we talked about Ohio State, at least I had been emphasizing, I did not think that they had scratched the surface to what they could be offensively. Jeremiah Smith said, Mr. Ruffino, I'm going to make you look like a genius. Because it's not just him, okay, and we'll break this down. But Jeremiah Smith reminds me of wide receivers that have been massive in college. Like I think of Julio Jones. I think of like Jamar Chase's rise, right, in 19. When you have that guy that comes on the scene and just goes off. He is Julio. He is that is him. I feel like I've seen this story before. The guy played at Alabama. He didn't play for Ohio State. So you getting him the ball early, Chip saying, look, Joe, of their first 12 plays, 11 of them were passing plays. They came out guns blazing, throwing the ball all over the place. And not only just it being Jeremiah Smith and you having to really just double him, but even put a safety and shade him, it opened up things for Ibuka. It opened up things for the tight end. The first play of the game, Joe, was a screen to the tight end. They go diamond right, screen, bubble, and then they're off to the races and they score. I mean, they had 34 points in the first half, 35 points in the first half, whatever it was. Are you kidding me? And I felt like they took the pedal off the metal. I know Oregon kind of got into the game a little bit. Right. I still don't think that they have scratched the surface of how great they can be. And that's the dangerous thing. They are, to me, by far, the most talented team in the country right now. And they're playing like it. And you're right. The dominance that we saw them display today against Oregon is a team that I think that everybody thought that they would be coming into the year. Yes. Or they had the potential to be going into the year, and now they're putting it on full display.
The thing that I love to keep discussing here and just reiterating is how important that Michigan game was, because they're not just stepping into the playoffs with a good team and excitement and motivation. They have had a different level of focus, one that we just don't see from any of these other teams. And the fact that now the biggest part for their success is defensively, they're flying all over the field.
Yes.
They're making not just big plays where they're getting tackles and they're limiting any yards after contact. They're getting huge sacks. They are disrupting the catch point. They're playing lockdown coverage. They're playing awesome ball. And then for what you just mentioned here with feeding Jeremiah Smith and Emeka Ibuka, I think Chip Kelly has realized, hey, whatever I try to do against Michigan, we're never going to try and do that again. We're just going to lean on what works. They don't need to stretch the field to start games, and they did it throughout this game in spots on some of their big plays. But that first huge Jeremiah Smith touchdown, it was a relatively short route concept, and he broke a tackle. Let the incredibly gifted players, Emeka Ibuka, future first-round pick, Jeremiah Smith, future top 5 pick, let those guys go off. I agree with you, man. And I know it sounds crazy. It feels like they're not even touching their potential. Like, and they're part of it's they're down 2 offensive linemen. Maybe that's one of the things that's slightly holding them back. But they could be even better than the dominance that they're doing right now. They're going to smoke Texas, by the way. That needs to be really focused on, and we're going to dig a little deeper, in the next coming shows as we preview those games. But I can't be unconvinced that they're not going to blow past Texas.
The thing for me, Joe, is they're over the 175 rushing yards total, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, take the kneel downs, whatever away, whatever you want to do, okay, whatever. But Henderson had the massive run there. And what had been missing had been the running game. But not only that, how they set it up. I think that Chip, for what it's worth, kind of went for broke after in the Tennessee game, right? Like, hey, we're gonna throw it around, and then we're gonna set the play action up, then we're gonna literally start running the football and setting things up. But Henderson having the big plays that he did, he didn't get a crap load of carries. Judkins got most of the handoffs. But, Joe, the speed on the outside, you could clearly see that they were the faster team. And we talked about coming into the game against Oregon. Oregon's biggest weakness had been run defense. And that if Ohio State legitimately could find a way to have the success that other teams have been having against Oregon in the run game. And we talked about this Oregon defensive line all year and them giving up rushing lanes. Remember, me and you had talked about it, but then in the beginning, I was like, look, man, they're leaky. And they were today. They were leakier than a plumber's faucet, okay? They had issues. But the big thing here that we want to always talk about offense, because we're seeing the offense emerge for really like this for the first time. Joe, they had 7 sacks. 3 of the 7 sacks came on 3-man pressures.
That's nuts.
Sawyer's bat downs came on 3-man pressures. Dylan Gabriel, I see Oregon fans on social media. Dylan needs to throw the ball. Throw it where? They're dropping 8 in coverage. Where do you want him to throw the football? And then he doesn't have time. O-line got bullied for Oregon, and Ohio State has dominated their last 2 opponents up front. This is the roster when you spend all that money, and all those guys came back. Look at their defense. Senior, 4th-year guy. This is what it's supposed to look like. And the outright dominance that they displayed today on both sides of the football, it cannot go unnoticed. But, Joe, I got to throw this out there too. It's not just the talent that I think that it's separating here. I got to give a tip of the cap to Chip, and I got to give a tip of the cap to Ryan Day. Joe, some of the things that they're calling offensively, defensively, Jim Knowles, it's beautiful.
And it's aggressive. One of the few coaching staffs that's being extremely aggressive that we've seen in the playoffs so far.
They're doing everything Sark refuses to do.
Love how we always manage to take shots at Texas.
Can I just use the game earlier in the day,
right.
and that's just the truth. But here's the thing.
Okay.
The play calling to the point that you're trying to make here. Let's go dive in a little bit more into that. What we're talking about here is, let's think about the first touchdown. What do? They go trips left, right motion, okay, X motion, and they put a safety on Jeremiah Smith. Good luck, bud.
Yeah, not gonna work.
It's not gonna work. That's the tight end diamond package thing in the beginning of the game. It's by far the best opening script I've seen in a hot minute. But again, if they're going to I don't know if they can run the ball like this on Texas. That's one thing I'm going to give Texas. Now, I know Scattaboo today. I get it. Scattaboo's a different beast. If they continue to have that success on the ground, it's going to be a big thing. But advancing and playing Texas, buddy, I'm just going to throw this out there. The Texas O-line is beat up. And if you're getting 7 sacks on an Oregon team who went undefeated during the regular season, good luck, man. Good luck.
I just want to, before we close this, we've had a lot of Oregon supporters, so like I don't want anyone to come in here and poo-poo on the results that Oregon
let's get
produced
to
this
Oregon.
year.
Right.
Right. This was an amazing season, and the game just didn't go their way. And a lot of it does play into just catching Ohio State with the timing that they did, where they have all of this energy and everything that we just highlighted there to run into them when you're coming off of multiple weeks of preparation, but at the same time where you're not playing football games. It's clearly was important, but their season was fantastic, was huge. This was a huge step forward for them to continue to progress to Oregon becoming a powerhouse in college football. I don't think this is at all an indictment on Dan Lanning or his capabilities as a coach. He is still extremely young in the landscape of head coaching in the sport. The recruitment, everything that we have lauded and hyped them up to be in the long-term future is 1000% still there, and it is going to come to fruition. It just so happens that they had to deal with one of the most motivated and aggressive and pissed off teams in the playoff.
I got to push back on one thing. Dan's inexperience, I thought today, played a little bit here. Let me explain.
Okay.
You're down 21. Okay. You're going for it on third down and you don't get it. And I tweeted this out like, hey, Ohio State, go for the jugular here. It's when Henderson got the long run, right? I thought the play before that, he should have called a timeout. I think he should have tried to regroup. I think that there were some I felt like not only did the team get shell-shocked, did you see the expressions he had on the sidelines? I felt like he was like, oh, shit. Like, what do we do? And I felt like that way the entire pretty much first half, they're just like, they had no clue on what they needed to do. Go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
All I was going to say is that I agree with what you're saying, but I think a lot of times, and I know this isn't you saying that they're incapable of getting into this upper echelon of teams. A lot of teams in every sport need to lose for a period of time in these premier situations to learn how to win. Like the Boston Celtics were a really good example.
Well, hold on.
Okay.
Ryan Day.
Not exactly.
Right. I mean, what do we do? I mean, he took everything Dan Lanning went through today, Ryan Day had gone through.
Yeah. Yep.
Literally went through it a couple of Ohio State fans don't want to admit this, but a month ago. Here's what I'd say. You got to get it back. I know that you've recruited very well. You have not sustained and developed, in my humble opinion, the last 2 years where you got separated from, whether it be Washington or whether it be tonight against Ohio State. And even sometimes, Joe, when they got in comparable situations, you got pushed around up front. Let's call it what it is. You were leaky in the run game defensively the last 6 weeks, okay? You were leaky today. You got to get better up front. That's the bottom line. It's a great season for them, but they got to regroup. They're going to continue to get better here, man. They will continue to get better.
Absolutely.
Another thing that I want to throw out there, the inability to be able to line up on 3rd and 2 and run the football, and you can't get a yard. Not just 2. You couldn't get a yard is a problem. They did it 3 times in the first quarter and couldn't get a yard.
Yep.
That is a massive issue. So, great season for the Oregon fans. I just think that you ran into the best, most talented team in the country.
Right. 100%. Only way that they can go is up. And again, Ohio State, they're going to be national champions.
Is there anybody that you think that can contain Ohio State at the current moment?
No, absolutely not. Every team, they're the most unflawed team. Unless somebody can figure out to attack their only weakness, they feel like one of the most flawless teams that I can.
Well, hold on. How long can you be on this hot streak? You're gonna be.
I mean, we've seen
great games.
Yeah, I think that they can do that.
I don't know about that.
We've seen teams go on hot streaks for a month span.
I saw one team do it ever.
Who? I don't know, man. I think that for them to catch this heat now and not to catch it like 4 weeks ago is so beneficial for them.
It very much. Look, I'm not saying it can't happen. I'm just saying,
Right.
Could it happen? All right. Get after Will Howard. That's the key here. Great games today. Really fun games today. We'll see you guys tomorrow live after the Georgia and Notre Dame game.